Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am here with another video preview for the 91st Academy Awards. Today I'm going to go over the 25 films that have been submitted for the category of Best Animated Feature. Now, Best Animated Feature is a very recent category at the Oscars. It was only created in 2001, but a lot of modern-day iconic animated films have gone on to win this award, and it'll be interesting to see which of the films submitted will end up taking it home next year. Now, Best Animated Feature is a unique category, partly because of the way it's chosen. The nominees have been, and are still chosen, by the Best Animated Feature Nominating Committee, but in the past, that committee was only open to select members of the short film and feature animation branch. And that's one Academy branch. There's no separate short film branch or separate animation branch. It's two groups put into one branch together. I guess partly because a lot of animators end up creating short films, which is I guess why they're combined together into one branch, but anyway, select members from those branch would always select the nominees each year, but then last year they decided to change things up a bit. And I want to take this opportunity now to correct a mistake I believe I made last year when I said that the nominations would be open to every Academy member before the final voting stage, and that's not entirely true. The Animated Feature Nomination Committee does still exist, but this time the volunteers can be any member from any branch. It's not necessarily the entire Academy being allowed to nominate this category, although the entire Academy is allowed to vote for the winner, but rather the nominating committee will be made up of not just people from the short films and animation branch, but also the actors branch, directors branch, cinematographers branch, etc., whatever the volunteers branch is. And last year we saw that kind of change a little bit of how the films were selected. We saw more box office friendly but not necessarily critically acclaimed films get nominated, like The Boss Baby, which got horrible reviews from critics, and Ferdinand, which, while technically had a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, most of the reviews for that film said the film was good but not necessarily great. And traditionally, Best Animated Feature has always been a mix of the blockbuster, critically acclaimed animated films mixed with the smaller, more independent, also critically acclaimed animated films. And although admittedly 2017 was a pretty bad year for animation, not only with films like The Boss Baby, but also films like The Emoji Movie, and thankfully that film got nominated where it deserved to at the Razzies, where it ended up even winning Worst Picture over there. So this year has been a little bit better for animation, at least from the films I've seen, because I haven't seen every single film, but we'll have to see what happens as the rest of the year goes by and what critic groups pick, and we don't know if the Academy will line up with those groups, but it'll be interesting to see. So what I'm going to do, like I've done in years past, is I'm going to read through the list of contenders, talk about the big major films that I have seen, as well as give you plot summaries of some of the smaller films that you may have never heard about. So here are the 25 contenders for Best Animated Feature. Anna and Bruno, Early Man, Fireworks, The Grinch, Have a Nice Day, Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation, Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, The Laws of the Universe, Part 1, Liz and the Bluebird, Lou Over the Wall, MFKZ, Makia, When the Promised Flower Blooms, Mirai, The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, On Happiness Road, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Reuben Brandt Collector, Sergeant Stubby, An American Hero, Sherlock Gnomes, Smallfoot, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Tall Tales, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, Tito and the Birds. Also, some more requirements I forgot to mention. For this category, all the films need to be at least 40 minutes long, have at least 75% animation. A few live-action sequences may be okay, but if it's too much, then obviously it's ineligible. And the film has to be released in at least one theater in Los Angeles between January 1st and December 31st. But anyway, some of the big animated films that have come out this year. Early Man, I sadly did not see. I heard it was pretty good, although I know some people found it disappointing. It was in and out of theaters in a blink of an eye because unfortunately stop-motion animation films are not very popular here in America. They tend to bomb at the box office, which is what we saw 2 years ago with the wonderful Kubo and the Two Strings. But you know, these films have more of a cult following. They're appreciated by like animation enthusiasts, but not necessarily the general public. So I did not get to see Early Man. If it does get nominated, then I'll rent it on DVD, or if it shows up on Netflix, I'll watch it there. The Grinch, I just saw this past weekend. Not as bad of a film as I feared it would be based on its trailer, but in the end it was a completely unnecessary remake of the iconic animated short. They add a lot of things to try and pad out the 90-minute runtime, and it just doesn't work. It just feels very redundant. And I know there's been some debate of whether or not this is worse than the 2000 live-action Grinch starring Jim Carrey. A lot of people have criticized that film for turning a 30-minute cartoon into a 2-hour film. I personally like the Jim Carrey Grinch film. Is it as good as the original cartoon? No, not by a long shot, but it's fine. I enjoy it. I've seen a lot worse, and there are a lot of elements I feel that this film tries to rip off, not just from the animated film, but from the Jim Carrey film as well, and it just doesn't work. Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation, did not bother seeing that. I know these films do have quite a bit of a fan base. I mean, obviously little kids love them, but there are a lot of people who feel that they're some of Adam Sandler's best movies of his whole career. I personally have never seen the films because, frankly, they looked incredibly stupid to me, and they looked like they would only appeal to 5-year-olds, but a lot of adults seem to love them, but of course critics haven't really been fans of them. The first two didn't really get good reviews. This one got slightly better reviews, but just kind of a meh reception still overall. I highly doubt this will be nominated, especially since the other two were not. Incredibles 2, fantastic animated film. My favorite animated film of the year, and this is one of those films where the sequel really was worth the wait. You know, this is the Pixar sequel that fans have been wanting the most, and boy oh boy did this not disappoint. 14 years was worth all the wait. Brad Bird did an absolutely phenomenal job. Is it as good as the first Incredibles? No, not quite. And while I didn't necessarily think the villain was weak, like some people did, I will agree that Syndrome is a much better villain than the Screenslaver, but however, I still love this film from beginning to end. It was everything you could want in an Incredibles sequel, and given that Brad Bird was still involved, and all the main players from the first film are back and still great, like Craig T. Nelson as Mr. Incredible, Holly Hunter as Elastigirl, Samuel L. Jackson as Frozone, and of course Brad Bird himself as Edna Mode. Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson film, I saw that. Really good film. There were a few nitpicks I had here and there, particularly how the Japanese characters, even though they speak Japanese, there's no English subtitles, so you can't really know what they're saying. And then Greta Gerwig's character I thought was really annoying and pretentious, but everyone else was great, and the rest of the cast was fantastic. I mean, talk about a star-studded cast. You had Bill Murray, Edward Norton, Bryan Cranston, Jeff Goldblum, Liev Schreiber, Frances McDormand, Scarlett Johansson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like, you IMDb this film's cast, you'll be like, whoa. Let's see. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Obviously that film has not come out yet, but I've heard pretty good word of mouth so far from like critics who've seen it and have like posted their reactions on social media. And basically the word is this is the film that the Emoji Movie should have been, but wasn't, because obviously this film has like pop culture references galore and is basically making fun of everything that we have on the internet today. Sergeant Stubby, An American Hero, that came out way back in the spring. Bombed pretty hard at the box office, although then again, the studio didn't really work that hard to promote it, to be honest. But it does tell the true story of a dog named Sergeant Stubby, who was a hero during World War I. Sherlock Gnomes, did not bother seeing that. It's a sequel to the 2011 film Romeo and Juliet, which I have not seen. And when I saw the trailer for Sherlock Gnomes, I just thought, no, I can't see that. It just looks way too juvenile for me. And from everything I've heard from people who have seen it, it looks like I was right to stay away. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that hasn't come out yet. That comes out in December. But this is an animated Spider-Man film. And although Peter Parker is a character in this movie, it doesn't necessarily focus on his Spider-Man, but rather it focuses on the other Spider-Man that has been around in comics in recent years, Miles Morales. And it looks quite good. They have like 2D hand-drawn animation, which is pretty rare these days. So that alone makes me interested in seeing it. And then finally, Teen Titans Go to the movies. I've never watched Teen Titans Go. I know it's insanely popular on Cartoon Network. They have like over 200 episodes, but I know a lot of people, particularly animation enthusiasts, really hate it. Like there are the big name animation reviewers on YouTube like Phantom Strider and the Mysterious Mr. Enter. They bash this show all the time, and I've heard many criticisms of how this show teaches terrible messages to kids and that the characters are bad role models, but surprisingly it got a pretty positive response from critics, and that could be maybe because the critics don't normally watch the show, unless maybe they have kids of their own who watch it, but I guess when you don't watch the show as much, you're more open-minded towards it. But it looked pretty silly to me, and since I'd never seen the show, I wasn't going to watch it anyway. Alright, so those are all the major animated films that I've seen or heard of. Now I'll look at the lesser-known animated films that have either come out in limited release or have not yet come out, but will probably also come out in limited release. So if you want to see smaller or more obscure animated films, these are ones to look out for. Now, like I do every year, I'm just basically going to read off the plot summary of these films that I got off of either IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. Alright. Anna and Bruno. An animated adventure about a young girl who seeks out her father in order to help save her troubled mother. That's all I could find for a plot description on both IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. I try to find as detailed of a plot description as possible, though not too detailed, just to give you a sense of what these films are about. Next up, Fireworks. School children Norimichi, Yusuke, and Junichi want to know if fireworks look round or flat from the side. They make a plan to find the answer at a fireworks display, while Mizuna schemes to run away with Norimichi or Yusuke, whoever wins at the pool. Have a nice day. A hard rain is about to fall on a small town in southern China. In a desperate attempt to find money to save his fiancée's failed plastic surgery, Zhao Zhang, a mere driver, steals a bag containing 1 million yuan from his boss. News of the robbery spreads fast within the town, and over the course of one night, everyone starts looking for Zhao Zhang and his money. The Laws of the Universe, Part 1. University students Ray, Anna, Tyler, Hallie, and Eisuke are enjoying student life while chasing their dreams. However, they have a secret mission, to fight against invading reptilians from outer space. One day, Ray travels back in time to 330 million years ago on Earth to find his missing friend Tyler, who has fallen into a trap set by the evil alien Dahar. Liz and the Bluebird. Mizori Yorizuka and Nozami Kasaki are a pair of best friends in their final year of high school. They're both obsessed with the school's brass band club. With Mizori on the oboe and Nozomi on the flute, they spend their days in happiness, until the club begins to practice songs inspired by the fairy tale Liz and the Bluebird. Immersed in this story, Mizori and Nozomi begin to realize that there may be no such thing as being together forever. Lu over the wall. Kai is talented but adrift, spending his days sulking in a small fishing village after his family moves from Tokyo. His only joy is uploading songs he writes to the internet. When his classmates invite him to play keyboard in their band, their practice sessions bring an unexpected guest, Lu, a young mermaid whose spins turn to feed when she hears the beats, and whose singing causes humans to compulsively dance, whether they want to or not. As Kai spends more time with Lu, he finds he is able to tell her what he is really thinking, and a bond begins to form. But since ancient times, the people in the village have believed that mermaids bring disaster, and soon there is trouble between Lu and the townspeople, putting the town in grave danger. MFKZ. Angelino is just one of thousands of deadbeats living in Dark Meat City, but an otherwise unremarkable scooter accident caused by a beautiful, mysterious stranger is about to transform his life into a waking nightmare. He starts seeing monstrous forms prowling around all over the city. Is Angelino losing his mind, or could an alien invasion really be happening this quietly? Makia, when the promised flower blooms. In the land of Iolf, all the people stop aging in their mid-teens and can live for hundreds of years. One resident, Makia, feels lonely despite the peaceful and idyllic land she lives in. But one day the Masart army invades Iolf, seeking the people's blood for their immortality. Makia manages to escape the destruction and chaos of war, but with no home or people, she becomes a wanderer in a dark forest. She comes across Ariel, an infant mortal boy who has lost his parents, and becomes his guardian. The story follows the relationship that evolves between the two as Ariel grows up, while Makia does not. Mirai. A young boy encounters a magical garden which enables him to travel through time and meet his relatives from different eras, with guidance by his younger sister from the future. The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. Yes, that really is the whole title. The Night is Short, Walk On Girl is a comedy about one epic night in Kyoto. As a group of teens go out for a night on the town, a sophomore known only as the Girl with Black Hair experiences a series of surreal encounters with the local nightlife, all the while unaware of the romantic longings of Senpai, a fellow student who has been creating increasingly fantastic and contrived reasons to run into her in an effort to win her heart. On Happiness Road. Chi earned her American dream after persevering with her studies in Taiwan. Following her grandmother's death, Chi returns to her family on Happiness Road, where she begins to feel nostalgic about her childhood and starts to contemplate the meaning of life and home. What is happiness? Will Chi find her own happiness? Reuben Brandt, Collector. A psychotherapist suffers violent nightmares inspired by legendary works of art. 4 of his patients, expert thieves, offer to steal the works, since he believes that once he owns them, the nightmares will disappear. He becomes a wanted criminal known as the Collector. Who will dare to catch him and his gang? Tall Tales. When Apollo, a kind-hearted traveling performer and ingenious cricket, lands in the village of the funny little bugs, the whole kingdom is about to be disrupted. The beloved reigning queen bee Marguerite is soon kidnapped on the orders of her jealous and treacherous cousin Wendy, who sets up a trap to frame Apollo for the crime, causing panic and despair in the hive. Tito and the Birds. Tito, a shy 10-year-old boy, lives in a world on the brink of pandemic. Fear is crippling people, making them sick and transforming them. Tito realizes, based on his father's past research, that there may be a way to utilize the local pigeon population and their songs to create a cure for the disease. His father was forced to leave when Tito was only 6, and the struggle to find a cure becomes linked with the search to find his father again, along with his own identity. So as for what I think will be nominated, I'm not completely sure at this point, although I have some hunches as to what I think are definitely some locks. At the very least, I'm pretty sure Incredibles 2 will be nominated, mainly because this film was just as critically acclaimed as the first one, and the first one won this award back in 2004, and it's the highest grossing animated film of the year, and domestically in the United States, it's the highest grossing animated film of all time. I believe worldwide Frozen is still the highest grossing animated film worldwide, but Incredibles 2 is pretty close. Isle of Dogs, I think, will be nominated because even though stop-motion animation films aren't always popular at the box office, Oscar voters do love them, and Wes Anderson was nominated here before when he made his first stop-motion animated film, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Plus, this is more geared towards adults than kids, and Oscar voters like to include at least one adult animated film in the lineup. Ralph Breaks the Internet will probably be nominated because Wreck-It Ralph was nominated, and of course it controversially lost to Pixar's Brave, but I don't know if it's going to be able to overcome Pixar again this year, but we'll see. As for the rest of the films, Sherlock Gnomes, as for what could fill the other two slots, Sherlock Gnomes probably won't because that was a big critical and commercial bomb. Smallfoot possibly, that could be kind of this year's Ferdinand, a film that got okay reviews, but not necessarily great reviews, but it did okay at the box office. I forgot to talk about that film earlier. It was okay. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. Some really great animation, but the story itself was just kind of cliche and predictable. I've heard some people predict Teen Titans Go to the movies, mainly because of its critical acclaim, and it's a 2D animated film, and it's based on an existing property, but I'm very hesitant about it. Unless it gets nominated at the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, and BAFTAs, I'm not really going to predict it right now. The Grinch, maybe that could possibly be nominated, since the critical reception is kind of in the middle, but even so, that wouldn't really deserve a nomination. Early Man, maybe, but it came out way earlier in the year and was a massive bomb, so who knows how many people in the Academy actually saw it. Usually there's at least one or two anime films that get nominated, and quite a lot of the films that I just talked about with reading the plot summaries are anime films. And the ones that I've heard the most about are Mirai, because I believe that's from Studio Ghibli, and Oscar voters love Studio Ghibli. But I've heard quite a bit of stuff about Liz and the Bluebird and Lou Over the Wall. Fireworks I've heard about, but that didn't get good reviews, so I don't think that'll be nominated. The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, I mean, that's an interesting, unique title, but the premise, from what I've read, might seem a bit too out there to be taken seriously. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse could possibly be nominated, because like Teen Titans Go to the movies, it's based on an existing property, it's 2D animation, and while it hasn't hit theaters yet, it could probably get good reviews, and given the recent passing of Stan Lee, maybe that might make some voters sentimental, because Stan Lee, of course, created Spider-Man and almost every major Marvel character that's had movies made about them. So if I had to pick my top 5 predictions at this point, I would probably say Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, and there's also another sequel film in here among these smaller anime films, The Laws of the Universe Part 1. A couple years ago in this category, there was a submission called The Laws of the Universe Part 0, and I believe this Laws of the Universe Part 1 is a sequel to that. But I've never seen either of them, so I can't say anything. But overall, if I had to pick my top 5 predictions right now at this point, just based on critical acclaim so far and the trends in the past with this category, I'm going to say, as of right now, I think the nominees will probably be Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Mirai, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. but we'll see what happens in January once the Oscar nominations are announced. But thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below what animated films you've seen this year and what you think will be the official nominations for this category. And also be sure to like and subscribe, and also click on the notification bell for all my newest videos. And I will see you guys next time with the winners for the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. Bye.